Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie, that's Heath, that's Adam. We're taking a look at the top 12 quarterbacks for 2023. We're already starting to look ahead, getting our rank list together. We're going to have lots of upcoming off-season coverage for you on here, CBS Sports HQ, on our podcast, Fantasy Football Today, and on the site, cbssports.com. And so you'll get a full write-up of all these quarterback rank lists along with Chris Towers and Dave Richard, so you can check that out when it is available. But here are the lists for myself, for Heath, and for Adam. We'll start with Heath's top 12 quarterbacks here for 2023. Patrick Mahomes leading off the list here. Josh Allen number 2. You see the list. A lot of the names are going to be the same, just kind of the order is going to differ a little bit. So this is Heath's top 12. Take a look at that for a couple of seconds before we flip the page to Adam's. So again, Heath going with Mahomes number 1. Adam, however, going with Josh Allen at number 1. And some of the order will differ. So you see Justin Fields a little bit lower, Justin Herbert a little bit higher. Dak Prescott a little bit lower, for example, as well. We'll have some conversations on some of these guys. Lamar Jackson, can you still trust him? Kyler Murray, what about him as well? You see my list a little similar to Heath at the top with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, 5 for me. So some of the different lists, just to give you an example for Chris and for Dave, they have Kirk Cousins in their top 12. So it's interesting to have those conversations this offseason as we debate who is the best top 12 quarterbacks for the upcoming season. But let's talk about the guys at the top. So Mahomes and Allen, those two have been drafted as the first 2 quarterbacks for the last 3 seasons, and now we're going to have another debate about who should be the number 1 guy. So Heath, make the case for Mahomes, and then Adam, you can follow and make the case for Josh Allen.
Well, even coming into this year, if you looked at the last 3 years per game average, Patrick Mahomes had been the best quarterback in fantasy football. That did not include the best season of his career back in 2018. This season, once again, he's the best quarterback in fantasy football, even after losing Tyreek Hill. Josh Allen's style of play is fantastic for gaining fantasy points. Also gives me just a little bit of concern. We saw the first injury this year with the elbow.
Yeah, he was better than Mahomes per game last year in 2021 by a pretty big margin. He was better than Mahomes per game before the elbow injury. That's just what it is, right? I mean, look, they're 1 and 2, but Allen's going to run more than Mahomes. He's going to run a lot more than Mahomes, and he was better before the elbow injury. So that's just what it came down to for me. I don't think we're seeing the real Josh Allen right now, and he's still been okay. He's still been fine for fantasy, even with the injury, but he's lost his ability to throw the ball downfield. If he gets that back, he's the best quarterback in fantasy to me.
I think the thing that's going to sway it for me, and you know, again, none of these are locked in, is A, what's the receiving core going to look like for the Chiefs? And B, Josh Allen has a much tougher division to play in. You know, right. The Jets defense is going to be great. The Patriots defense is always going to be a problem. The Dolphins defense, I think, is going to be good. So I think just when you look at the divisions that they're facing, Patrick Mahomes, the Broncos are good, but who knows how that team's going to look. Right. Raiders are always going to be a wild card. Chargers are always going to be a wild card, so I give that, you know, a little bit of consideration as well. After that group, you got the group that we're going to look at, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to draft, is the Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert group. So Adam, for you, I know Burrow is at the top of that list. Oh no, I'm sorry, Herbert's at the top of the list. So make the case why Herbert's 4 ahead of Burrow and ahead of Fields.
It's hard to put him ahead of Burrow, not quite as hard for me to put him ahead of Fields. What Herbert is doing right now is really disappointing. The offense, they need a new offensive coordinator. They need to be more aggressive. He should not be tied with Daniel Jones for the 3rd lowest air yards per pass attempt. It is Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield, and then a tie between Justin Herbert and Daniel Jones. That is not Justin Herbert. He has maybe the most arm talent in football. They need to use him better. I think the rushing totals are going to go way up next year. I'm not sure if it's still the rib injury or what. He's got 20 rushing yards combined in his last 5 games. We're not seeing the real Justin Herbert. He was the best of that group last year. Obviously, Fields wasn't really, in contention. But I think he's going to bounce back big, and I think Rashawn Slater is going to be a big part of it. I still think there is an MVP season coming for Justin Herbert, and it could be next year.
Yeah, I think Justin Fields scoring 22 fantasy points a game, throwing the ball for 150 yards with absolutely no help at wide receiver. He's still only thrown 588 passes in the NFL. For most of these guys, that's 1 season. I still think he has a big leap to make as a passer, and he has a lot of help coming, hopefully, in terms of weapons, and he's still going to run for 1,000 yards a season.
Offensive line help would certainly matter as well there. That, again, this is going to be where I think, you could debate, okay, Mahomes versus Allen, but this group right here is going to be, I think, a lot of the best talking points, when you start to get into, okay, who are those quarterbacks that you're looking for maybe as, round 4, 5, 6 type of options, at least the way we draft. These guys are probably going to be rounds 2 and round 3. based on how quarterback play has gone this season. But for me, I'd look at the Fields' rushing potential. You mentioned an MVP season. MVP season could be coming for Joe Burrow as well. You know his weapons are going to be locked in. So, like you said, Adam, it's easier to make the case for Herbert if you're anti-Fields over something like that, but not as easy over Joe Burrow. And I think one thing with Herbert that I'm curious to see is, you mentioned Alvin Kamara early in the show, the Austin Eckler breakdown that may be coming and how that may change things in a positive direction for Justin Herbert because he may have to throw the ball downfield a little bit more and rely on his receiving core. Should be interesting to figure out as well. So Lamar Jackson's still a top 10 quarterback for all of us here. Heath, you're the high guy on Lamar Jackson. It's been a bad season for him. He's been banged up again. This is now 2 years in a row where a running quarterback has gotten hurt. Last year was the ankle, this year the knee. There's some trade speculation. There's obviously the contract speculation as well. You're still comfortable, though, with Lamar Jackson if he stays with the Ravens as a top 6 guy?
It's more that I'm uncomfortable ranking him any lower than this. And he has not been good this year, but he's also been QB5 on a per-game basis. The injuries are a concern, but I can't imagine. The situation won't improve as much as it's going to improve for Justin Fields, but this situation's going to improve. Whether he gets traded to a different team or the Ravens bring in some help in terms of pass catchers, that's going to get better. And you get to a point, and it's definitely not in the first 3, and maybe it's as soon as number 4, where you look at the guys who are left, and you remember, Lamar Jackson had a season where he averaged 32 fantasy points per game. Can any of these other guys actually do that? I don't think there's anybody else left that can do it, so that's why I rank him that high.
I don't think Lamar Jackson can do it anymore. I'm kind of getting over it with him, and he's so boomer bust. I think that's what's really frustrating. I mean, the fact that he just said he's 5th per game, that shocked me. But yeah, when you think about the 2 games he had in weeks 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, whatever, he scored like 90 points. I guess it's not a total shock, but there's just too many down moments each of the last 2 seasons, and I don't want to deal with it anymore. If they upgrade the receiving core, then fine. I don't know that Rashad Bateman is the answer, but I'm just thinking that Greg Roman's offense has just been figured out, and Lamar Jackson is not going to be nearly as productive as he was in that MVP season. So I don't want to deal with the ups and downs. I want more consistency.
Again, I think that's why we're ranking him. So the potential for the upside, and even Adam, you say you're not as excited about. He's still 9th for you, so it's not like you're completely out on Lamar Jackson, which I totally understand. Kyler Murray is a little bit tougher to trust at this point because you don't know who the coach is going to be. There's serious speculation that Cliff Kingsbury will be gone from the Cardinals organization, and then you're coming off of the ACL situation. So Adam, when you're looking at Kyler Murray, 10th for you, 11th for me, and 11th for Heath, how is he still a top 10 quarterback or even a number 1 quarterback, knowing that there's so much uncertainty on top of just a major injury?
Yeah, right now he's probably a guy I would avoid. I think, you rank him there, but you don't think he's too different than the guys behind him. But really, you start to lose serious upside when you get past Kyler Murray or maybe one other guy in the rankings. So he still has a lot of upside. How he will recover from the ACL injury is a big deal. I know for wide receivers, it took Michael Gallup, took Chris Godwin, took them a while to really get back to being themselves. I don't know what to say about Gallup, but it certainly took a while for Godwin. Quarterbacks, I think it's a little bit better of an outlook. But when he has the Andre Hopkins, he's just a great fantasy quarterback every single time. So I don't want to overlook how good he was before the injury. He was a clear must start. And again, you're losing some upside when you get a little bit deeper in the rankings.
I think it's just a poor man's version of the same thing I said about Lamar Jackson. You get to a certain point where you're like, there's nobody else that can do what Kyler Murray can do if Kyler Murray's right. The injuries are still a major concern. The situation's still a little bit of a concern. But if everything goes right, he could be a league winner.
It would be nice to see a full season with Hopkins, with Marquise Brown, with maybe Trey McBride and what he can become, maybe the Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch position. So a lot of weapons still there. Hopefully a lot of upside as well. We'll see if he's able to run coming off the ACL. But again, Kyler Murray went from a top 5 quarterback now to closer to number 12. We'll see if he still will be drafted as number 1 quarterback in 2023.